Kim, thank you for the gracious introduction and the opportunity to present a perspective today to the UPEDA. My hope today is to present some information and a spin, if you will, on what is likely to be the next major economic challenge facing every community in the United States. I'm not an economic developer. I am a business person. Although business people and economic developers are like-minded and our paths typically overlap, and our successes depend on each other. There are some differences with regard to how we think, what we do, how we gauge success, and where we're going. And today I want to be able to take a little bit of your time to talk about an issue that I think is perhaps the next big economic tsunami that we may be challenged with in the not too distant future. Wayne Schell, President and CEO of the California Association for Local Economic Development. I'm assuming he's in your brethren, if you will. He's quoted as having said, "Economic developers are a catalyst. They are politically astute strategists who establish relationships, build networks, and generate resources to meet the needs of businesses. Their goal is to increase economic viability in their community." As a non-economic developer myself, I trust that that statement is true, is reasonably accurate. And in that regard, with that as a backdrop, my challenge to you as economic developers is it's time that we start to do the things that are right and the things that are needed, not necessarily just the things that get us paid. As Kim pointed out in the introduction, there are some demographics out there that I think the press is certainly talking about, and all of us in whatever circle of life we happen to operate in are starting to understand. There are, as of January 1st of this year, the oldest of the baby boomer generation is turning 65 at a rate of 10,000 per day, a trend that will continue for the next 19 years. That's an incredible amount of people who are looking to retire. Now, in that context, we have business owners, baby boomer age business owners. There are 15 million of them out there. And just like everybody else, they will be looking to retire. And for many of them, their retirement, the value of their nest egg, if you will, is tied up in their businesses. This is a simple reality. The baby boomer generation will be a tremendous impact on us economically as we go forward. What does all of this mean? As was captioned in the brochure for today's presentation, what I'm hoping to get to you today in my message is the notion that we can't lose sight of the forest for the trees. Economic development, and we'll talk a little bit about it as we go this morning, brings a lot to the table. A tremendous amount of leverage and opportunity, relationships, all of those things are critically important. But as you go about doing what you do each and every day, my goal today is to give you a perspective on the business owner and some of the mindset that a growing number of business owners, especially baby boomer age business owners, what they're starting to think in their mind with regard to what are they going to do. So the general concept is we always seem to be chasing the next great economic deal. Who can we encourage from some other community to come to our community to set up shop? What can we leverage as far as our resources in our local community to entice them to come? I think we might be missing the boat here. My perspective is that each community has a wealth of small businesses that you rely on, whether you really give them credence or not. You rely on them. The economic viability of your communities are dependent on the businesses you already have. And as these businesses mature, especially their ownership, and as they start to look for opportunities to retire, to achieve escape velocity, what's going to happen? What's the impact to your world of economic development? Where do things stand? And we're going to go through this a little bit for the next 40 minutes or so. First, we have to do a little bit of fact-finding. Simple slide. The current U.S. average retirement age for men is 64 years of age. The average for women, 62. But as I mentioned, the trend is actually moving. There is a wealth of workers, if you will, in the American economy who aren't retiring. They want to stick around for a while. There's a number of reasons for that. If you look at the simple demographic here, the number of Americans living to 90 plus will triple in the next 30, it's tripled in the last 30 years to almost 2 million people. And this trend will continue through 2050. Now take that simple reality and couple it with the current economic uncertainty that we are facing. Where do you stay employed? How do you stay employed? Do you leave your job today to go find a better job? Because my contention is that with an uncertain economy, especially a market that hasn't performed very well here the last 2 to 3 years, since the 2008 crash, many of the 401k values that the average worker has built up has eroded. So their ability to enjoy retirement at the typical retirement age becomes challenging. So inherently, what we're starting to see is more of an opportunity for them to stick around. There's a cause and effect to all of this. Workers are desperate to stay and hang on. They want to work. And as they get older, the notion is for employers to kind of move them on, to bring in some fresh blood. And people aren't changing jobs as much because, quite frankly, there isn't many opportunities out there to find something better. So they're simply hanging on to what they have. And this puts us in a bit of a quandary with regard to how the economy is going to deal with them. The number of workers that are participating actively in the workforce here now, age 65 years and older, is up to 17.9% of the workforce. This is up from 10.8% in 1985. The number of workers in the current American workforce that are age 75 years of age and older, 7.5% of the total workforce, up from 4.3% in 1990. They're sticking around. They want to stick around. In many cases, they have to stick around. Now, turn a little bit on the dime and look at small business and look at the impact that small business has on the employment circle. 30 million people are employed, or 30 million businesses in the US are considered small business. And of that, of all the people that are employed in the American economy, 53% are attributable to small businesses. 64% of all net new jobs that have been created come from small businesses. And 70% of all jobs created in the last decade have been credited to small businesses. Consider now the fact that 15 million of these businesses are owned by baby boomer aged business owners. What do they want to do? We have workers who want to work. We have business owners that are facing the typical decision. Do I stay in or do I bail? And my goal today is to give you a little bit of perspective with regard to what the thinking is for the business owner. This is a little outside of maybe the traditional economic development discussion and the water cooler chat that typically takes place. But it's a perspective I think you need to put into play into all the things that you do each and every day. We'll talk a little bit about the entrepreneur, the business owner. Everybody starts somewhere. They're unique individuals. They're usually the ones with the most gumption. Some call us crazy. Some say, well, why would you put your house, your bank account, everything that you own at risk to be your own boss? It's just something that we do. It's inherent in us. Entrepreneurs have a plan. They have a vision. This is what they want to accomplish. It may not be clear to the average person out there, but it's clear to the entrepreneur. They really know it. They may have a difficult time presenting it to someone because it's all wrapped up in here, but they have a plan. Inherently, good entrepreneurs have access to capital. It might be some family money. It might be something that they've saved over a period of time. It might be a credit card or 10 credit cards. But they are creative. They have access to capital. And they have the good sense of keeping their eye on the ball. They know what it is that they want to do, and they work toward that. The benefits of an entrepreneur are obvious. They create jobs. They promote capital transfer, because as they become successful, then others become successful. It's the notion of 1 + 1 = 3. They're the gatekeepers to accelerated wealth. I think the press has given business owners a bad rap, it seems, these last few months, that somehow we're evil people, that we're in it just for ourselves. That's really not the case. Entrepreneurs understand risk, truly understand risk, and they understand return on investment. How do I take every average dollar that I have? How do I invest that in my plan, in my vision? And what kind of return do I get? Good entrepreneurs can do this. They're not common. They're great at assembling resources. They leverage everybody that they know. They leverage everything that they know. They're creative. They'll work off of top of a cardboard box if they have to get their plan up and running. At the end of the day, I make this statement, I have the greatest respect for people who make payroll. It is not easy to do. And the more uncertainty in the marketplace, the more challenging it becomes to be able to make payroll every single week. I thought this might be an appropriate short little video of a representation of what it is to be a business owner. Hopefully you find this cute, but
miracles of modern science.
Multitasking.
Stimulating my hair follicles and
brushing his teeth and stimulating his hair follicles at the same time.
Looks really good.
And so is it that a business owner tries to do this every single day. They try to do everything that they can to make their plans successful. They want to sit in the big chair. They have a different way to skin the cat. And it's not for everybody. Not everybody can do it. It is special. But at the end of the day, there are immense challenges of being a small business owner. Everybody else goes home. The business owner doesn't. They're always working. The business owner is always responsible. They're responsible for everybody. They have to make payroll. They got to pay the bills. They got to pay the rent. They got to keep customers and clients happy. Tremendous amount of challenges. Businesses don't run on automatic pilot. It takes a lot of tender loving care to move businesses forward, to cultivate them, to get them to gain traction so that they can be successful and that they can hire more people and they can do more business. It doesn't happen on its own. someone's got to be able to do it. And successful businesses have owners who are always mashing the gas pedal. There's no such thing as automatic pilot. And I present these characterizations to you from the standpoint that I think the press has done an incredible disservice to business owners from the standpoint of it's easy. We solve our unemployment by putting more people in entrepreneurial positions to increase employment. We'll then fix the economy, everything will be good. At the end of the day, it takes unique people to be small business owners. It doesn't fit everyone's bill. You have to take some risk. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Ultimately, my goal is to bridge this notion between economic development and economic growth. Economic developers are charged with creating the structure and the framework for success. If those things are in play, then businesses have a great opportunity to be successful. So goes the theory. We all know that from the standpoint of simple definition, what economic development is. It's building that network, the infrastructure, the resources, the opportunity for people to leverage what they know, to leverage their plan, to leverage their capital, to go and do the things that are successful in whatever the business owner happens to deem as part of that definition. And the economic development actions that many of you, that many communities put into play are rather extensive. There's a lot of things that happen to the benefit of business as a whole. It's not unappreciated at all. But I think that at the end of the day, there's going to be more things that we're going to have to start to focus on in order to move the notion of economic development forward so that we can see some sustained economic growth. I think we're going to have to evolve from the traditional strategic concept to more of a practical, tactical concept. Otherwise, the chasm is too great. The theory behind economic development sits here. The practical applications of running a business are here. There's a gap. And as the market continues to struggle, the chasm gets wider. And the sooner that we can pull those together, and instead of focusing merely on the strategic as far as economic development, and start to focus on the tactical. How do we bring it from 20,000 feet into the trenches every single day? How do we help that business owner move his or her business forward? That becomes the challenge for economic development professionals, I think, going forward. We can all say this is what we do to get paid. But my contention is there's some things that we have to start to do that are right and that are needed in order to close that gap. I realize this is hard to see and I apologize, but this was an article recently in the Wall Street Journal, City of San Francisco. Everyone's heard of it. They have a fair amount of tourist trade that comes through San Francisco each and every year. This is an article that talks about economic development in the city and the challenges that the city saw with regard to its small businesses, primarily the restaurant business. They get a lot of tourists. There's a lot of people that come into the city, they visit, they sightsee, they eat. The challenges were that the current municipal structure had so many rules and regulations with regard to zoning, permits, and whatnot. It ended up being something like a 7 or 8 step process in order to get something accomplished. The municipality went in and changed it to make it far more easier. So these small startups had an opportunity to gain some traction, to become successful. It may be a very simplistic representation of what I'm talking about strategic versus tactical, but I think these are some of the things that we collectively need to start to focus on so that the businesses that are out there now that we all depend on have the greatest chance to continue going forward. We can't take them for granted anymore. The economy does not allow it. So we end up with this dichotomy of supply and demand. That is, workers who want to stay and work versus employers who want to leave. And this is my contention on the private side. I think you're going to see over the next few years a growing number of small business owners who are going to make fundamental decisions about leaving their businesses. So what happens? What happens to the business? What happens to those who are employed there? How does it adversely impact the communities that those businesses call home? The three biggest concerns for a small business owner: uncertainty, uncertainty, uncertainty. It's simple. The more that we don't know what the rules will be, the more we hunker down. More regulation doesn't help us. We don't like that. Some may deem it to be appropriate, but at the end of the day, it brings uncertainty because we can't budget for rules that we don't know are in play. Whether they're tax law issues, whether they're employment law issues, whether they're permit issues locally, whether they're environmental issues, it doesn't matter. Anytime you introduce uncertainty into the formula, business owners do one thing: they put their wallets away. They stop spending money. They stop hiring. They stop expanding. They stop innovating because they don't know what's around the next curve. So from an economic development standpoint, we need to understand that the more that we think we're doing good, those things that we think will serve the marketplace well are actually working to the contrary. They're impeding the normal flow of business. If business owners have a sense of certainty, now granted, not everything can be determinable. We understand that as business owners, but we're risk managers. We do this every single day. And with this uncertainty, what comes of it now is you have business owners, especially the baby boomer age business owners, who are tired of mashing the gas pedal. They're tired of the uncertainty. They're starting to question, do I want to put more equity into my company to keep it afloat and put myself in a greater risk position? And with increasing frequency, they're saying, no, I've had enough. And they're going to start to wind down. And this impacts us from an economic development perspective. Now, we all know the benefits of small business owners. Maybe we don't appreciate them all, but they're here and they're relevant. Owners come to the table with their own sacrificial lambs, their own sacred cows, their pet projects. Some are philanthropic with regard to what they do and how they help the community in which they reside. Some provide educational support, scholarships, programs, technology, civic event sponsorships, Rotary, Kiwanis, all of these things. These come inevitably from, in many ways, from support from the private side. It's not to say that it's the only support that these entities get, but private enterprise brings to the table one of the financial resources needed to be able to do some of these things. Business owners will carry extra staff. They do it because they understand that you can't willy-nilly lay somebody off. It impacts their staffer, it impacts their family, it impacts their business. We don't take layoffs very lightly because we know that there's a negative connotation and someone's going to suffer as a result. So even in times that are difficult, when economic times slow down, business owners will carry extra staffers. They're not quick to lay everybody off. They'll hang on to people because it's the right thing to do. We are inherently optimistic thinkers. I always say the glass isn't half full and it's not half empty. In my mind, the glass should be full all the time. And if you take that mindset, these are some of the things that we as business owners do that help the communities that we call home. So the benefits of small businesses in your communities should be obvious. But when you start to lay into that the age of the business owners that we're dealing with, the economic challenges that they're faced with, the uncertainty that they have to deal with more frequency each and every day, it becomes a challenge. Are they going to stay in the game? And for you as economic developers, you have to start to wonder, if they don't stay in the game, what happens? These are businesses right there in front of you. These aren't people you're courting. These are the ones you already depend on, you take for granted. And my challenge to you is, don't take them for granted. Understand how they think, understand what their fears are, what their challenges are, and whether you agree with them or not, it's pertinent. Because if the guy down the street is tired of mashing the gas pedal, and if he doesn't know what the next rule change is going to be, and he's 64 years old, and his entire nest egg is tied up in his business, what are his options? Stay in the game and keep risking it, or bail out and let somebody else do it? So I want to spend just a few minutes to talk a little bit about the notion of business owners leaving their business. This is not something that is routinely talked about, but it's pertinent, and it's going to happen with greater frequency. And if you can at least understand how we think and what we might do, then I trust that you can find a way to break away from that strategic approach that you employ to make your efforts more tactical, so that you can reach out to the folks who are already there, doing business every day, paying their taxes every day, employing people in your communities every single day, to keep them in the game. As I've mentioned, business owners are starting to understand the pitfalls of not having an exit strategy. It's the one question that most entrepreneurs should address in their business plans. That is, how are they going to get out of business? Most of them never address it. Because quite frankly, first things first, what's most important? I don't have to worry about getting out of business if I can hardly get into business. So for most entrepreneurs, most business owners, they don't have a formal exit plan. They're not sure what to do next. And so as they're faced with this uncertainty, and as they get older in age, and as they put more of their equity at risk, they're starting to give this some serious thought as to what goes into the best way for me to leave my firm. In my practice, what we teach business owners is maybe a little bit different than the tradition. In most cases, when a business owner is looking for the opportunity to leave their business, the common misconception is, I'm just going to put a for sale sign in the front door. Probably the worst thing you can do when you sell your business, because that for sale sign has a huge negative impact on your customers, your clientele, your employees, and how you do business. We want our business owners to start with the end in mind. That is, if you're going to leave, why are you leaving, and what's important for you when you leave? It may sound remedial, but at the end of the day, you need to know why you're getting out. Because once the deal is done, and once you walk out the door for the last time, you are not your business anymore. You are Joe Smith, former business owner, part of the general public. You've got money in the bank account. Are you happy with your exit? Because you don't have a chance to do it over again. So we want them to take a little bit of time to understand why they want to get out and what success is for them, how they define success, so that there's no regrets. The worst thing a business owner can do is to leave his or her business and regret that decision and the process by which they negotiated their exit for the rest of their lives. Business owners are starting to figure this out. It may come at it may be late to the game, but they're starting to figure it out. And they're desperately trying to catch up to figure out what is the best exit strategy for me. And they're doing this in your communities right now, quietly and discreetly. We want them to understand their time horizon. Some people come in one day and they go, you know what, I've simply had enough. I'm frustrated. I'm hearing this on TV, I read this in the paper, I hear this at the coffee shop. I'm tired of it. I'm done. I can't get any more capital from the local bank. I'm frustrated. I got competition popping up all over the place, so they don't compete fairly. I've got labor issues. I'm done. So they want to leave. The worst thing they can do is leave right away. Prep your business for sale. Know your company, create a plan that sells it the right way, and fix what needs fixing. Because at the end of the day, a vast majority of the wealth that a business owner has is tied up in their business. And if you're going to retire, you've got to get that wealth out of your business. Again, these are some of the things that we teach our clients going forward. And you'll notice the last one there, keep quiet. We never advocate talking about leaving your business. Never, ever. Not even to your closest lieutenants, unless that's an option, unless they are an option for you in your exit. So the planning process starts backwards. It starts with the end in mind and it works it forward. By and large, we keep quiet. And then all of a sudden, someday somebody opens up the paper and this business is sold. And everyone goes, geez, that came out of nowhere. Well, it's probably been years in the making. There's probably a strategy behind it, but it's going to impact the community that business calls home, one way or the other. The one thing we teach our customers when it comes to selling their business, terms over price every single time. The one thing that works to the advantage of economic developers in this context is that business owners often screw this up. If they start to talk about wanting to leave their business, they start talking about price. And inherently, they have this emotional tie to their business. Their business is them, they are their business. So when you ask a business owner, how much is your business worth? It's worth this. In reality, it's worth this. So the thing that works to your advantage as economic developers is until they realize that they have to do this or they have to do this, they either have to lower their expectation or they have to improve the performance of their company to get the value out of it that they think is in it. That works to your advantage because that process, that time horizon takes some time. And when business owners negotiate price first and terms second, the deals inevitably don't go well. And someone's going to regret it. Again, remember, I'm giving you perspective of the business owner. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to understand it. You don't even have to think that it's relevant to what it is that you do each and every day. But these are the realities of what's happening in the marketplace everywhere. And it's only going to get more systemic as we go forward. The sales options for businesses, keep this in mind too, because from an economic development standpoint, this comes into play. There's a number of different ways business owners can walk out the door for the last time. Some are obvious. An internal sale. Sell it to a family member. You know, take little junior and elevate him up to executive vice president, give him the keys, and hope like hell that he's going to do a great job. You've got the external sale. You know, maybe you sell it to a competitor. Maybe you sell it to an ancillary business that wants to get into your business, but they do something a little bit different. Maybe you have a client. Maybe you have a technology, an expertise, a market niche that they don't have. They become premium buyers. They want to buy your business if you do it the right way. You can become an absentee owner. Show up to the office every couple of days, check the metrics, make sure things are working well, and then go back to do whatever it is you do, probably the golf course or the local coffee shop, and hope to hell that the payments are made. Obviously, you have liquidation as an option. Just straight close the doors. I'm done. I've had enough. You have the modified Nike maneuver. This is kind of the just do it approach. This was coined by an author not too long ago. The concept is that whatever I make, I simply take out of my business. I don't leave anything and I don't reinvest. I just keep pulling it out, pulling it out, pulling it out. And I ride that for as long as I can. It's not a liquidation. It's just, I'm just going to operate my business and pull the value of the business out whenever I can. No new hires, no new investments, no expansions. Just do it. Just let it run, and I keep pulling the money out of it over the course of time. Why are these important for you to understand? Because, again, these are business owners who are quietly working in your communities trying to determine what they're going to do next. And they're looking at all of these options. Our notion to them is, again, plan your work and work your plan. If they're intent in selling their business, they're going to sell it. They're going to walk away because they simply have had enough, especially the baby boomer age business owners. So again, as I mentioned earlier, the thing that works to your advantage currently is that most business owners are still negotiating their exits the wrong way. They're putting price way ahead of everything else. And if you can't get past the economic hurdle of, I think my company is valued here, but I can only cash flow it here, that's not an easy bridge to gap. So we've got to be able to move them in line. Other issues impeding a sale. Again, this is just for your education. Availability of capital. You know, if there are any bankers in the room, you're going to tell me that capital is available, come and get it. Well, not quite. It's not quite there in the terms that we're used to, and inherently it's back to the old way. 20% down, you got to mortgage your first child, everything you own, a lot of collateral. Many of those issues impede sales. An uncertain market. Even if you want to get out, who wants to buy your business? Increased competition and the liabilities that come with being a business owner. Of course, we have the famous Dodd-Frank regulation that is on the books. Last I heard, and it's only some portion of the bill has been evaluated, there's 24 million man-hours of activity in some portion of Dodd-Frank that has to be evaluated with regard to capital and collateral and making money available to businesses. So what happens? How do we get through some of these things? One of the options is owner finance. Land contracts. You want to sell your business for $1.5 million. That's the emotional number that you've put to it. This is what you really think it's worth. In reality, if you look at the financial statements, that business cash flows at $1 million. So you have a $1.5 million asking price and it cash flows at $1 million. How do you bridge that gap? Well, if I'm going to buy your business, one of my options is, you know what? I'm going to pay you a premium. Your natural response is, hallelujah. I've made it. I've finally achieved the pot at the end of the rainbow. My equity, my value is going to come out and is going to go into my wallet. I'm ecstatic. I, as the buyer, am buying a business that only books for $1 million, but I agree to pay you $1.5 million for it. So once you do the deal, because you're the seller and you're happy, once you do the deal, you're financing it. You're relying on me to make those payments. And as I take over and as I start to work through a market that is still struggling, and as I start to navigate the minefield of uncertainties that you've already left behind, that I still have to face as the new owner, we run the great risk of not being able to make the note payment on a $1.5 million business because it only cash flows at $1 million. So eventually what happens is you have to start calling me because I'm a little bit more delinquent every month with when I pay you. And eventually what's going to happen, there's a good chance, not always, but a good chance, I'm going to default. And you're going to get your business back. So you went from this notion of, God, this is great, it's a great country. Started my business, I grew it, I sold it for what I really think it's worth, and now you're right back in the big chair, sitting there trying to figure out how you put a Band-Aid on a gash that's bleeding profusely. With this as a backdrop, what you have now is you have business owners who are trying to make short-term decisions on what to do. They're realizing, geez, I need to figure out how I'm going to get out. I don't want to put my equity at risk anymore. So I start to look at different ways that I can circumvent my risk, that I can operate and figure things out at the same time. In today's economy, everything's flat, everything's transparent. Everybody knows everything. information passes in nanoseconds. That works to advantage of many, but in some cases, it doesn't work to the advantage of business owners. So some of the things that they do to circumvent the risk is they look at new employment models. It's not the traditional, I'm going to go out and hire. I might employ a series of consultants or contract labor to come in, do something for me, so that I don't have to carry the overhead expense for that expertise when I don't need it every single day. So they're changing up in the interim as they plan in their mind how they're going to leave their business. They start to change how they operate their business. And new employment models are one of the ways that they can balance supply and demand. And they don't have to carry through fringe benefits and other traditional labor carrying costs, those things that come with employees. So they look at new ways to bridge that gap. But at the end of the day, ultimately, what's in the back of their mind is staying in the game. Do they stay in the game and do they keep fighting and try to make it work? The realities of being an owner, especially a baby boomer business owner, is you've been at it a long time. You're tired. It's a lot of stress running a business every single day. Everything that you do evolves around your business. When you go out to dinner with your spouse, you are viewed as somebody who owns this particular business. Someone's shaking your hand, or you're going to go meet somebody else. Somebody might walk into the restaurant that might be your next sale, so you get up and you make sure that you go over and say hello. When you sit down and read the paper as a business owner, you're reading every single story as to how that information helps you or hurts you, or how you can leverage that information to your benefit to help your business. We become synonymous with our businesses. And at the end of the day, that's challenging. It's tiring. It is a lot of stress to be able to mash that gas pedal every single day to go forward. What business owners are starting to figure out, and what we preach to them time in and time out, is that wealth doesn't come from owning a small business. And wealth doesn't come from growing a small business. At the end of the day, real wealth comes from selling your business. And they're starting to figure this out because they have a lot of equity built up in their businesses and they want it out. So when they look at all that uncertainty, it becomes obvious, what are my options? What should I be doing? Big business drives the economy. For those of you that are here from the big business side, I mean, God bless you. We need you. You guys drive the economy. But employment, my contention, is really driven by small businesses. And we have them in all the communities that we call home. And the challenge for us is to make sure that we don't lose sight of the realities of the day. And for those of you who are not baby boomers, one would argue that maybe this is your depression the last 3 years. There's some statistics there that are pretty telling. Now, granted, you can massage statistics all you want, but the realities of it realities of the situation is that we have 5.5 million fewer jobs now than at the beginning of this Great Recession. Employment is at its low and has been for 50 months. It's the longest time since the Great Depression that payrolls have not hit new highs. These are the simple realities. And we can spin it all we want, and we can look for the good, and that's great. I don't fault anybody for looking for the good. But at the end of the day, when you're a business owner and you're challenged to make payroll, you view things a little bit differently. And you will take action that is directed and quiet to ultimately get what you want because you need it. One issue that we may look at this potential departure of baby boomer age business owners and look at the potential remedy is to look at entrepreneurs. The media, in my opinion, in the last couple of years has created this huge mindset that entrepreneurism is the remedy. It will fix what ails us. If we can get more people to go into business for themselves, and if we give them all the tools needed to be successful, and God forbid they are, what are they going to do? They're going to hire more people. They're going to invest the profits that they make. They're going to move the economy forward. Great in concept, but I don't know that that's the remedy right now. I don't know that it's going to work quite that way. Remember, at the end of the day, entrepreneurs cannot be risk averse. They have to have an element of leadership within them, and they have to be bankable. I see many people who are would-be entrepreneurs who come into my office and sit down and go, I have a business idea. And so we start to chat. And they're passionate about their business idea. But as you start to talk to them candidly about the challenges that are out there, and you ask them even the simplest questions about risk and about money and about how they're going to manage their business and who they're going to rely on, too many times they don't have that figured out. And we may have the best of intentions for entrepreneurs to be the remedy for our current economic malaise, but that's not the remedy. It's not going to change. Those who are entrepreneurs at heart, who can really do it, I would contend that the percentage in the marketplace hasn't changed at all. But the media has created this aura that be your own man, be your own woman, be your own boss, go into business for yourself. You can do it. It's easy. And I'm here to tell you it's not easy. That's the reality of life. Yeah, you get great stories that pop up. Wonderful ideas, right timing, right dynamics. Everything seems to come together, and with a little bit of urging and a little bit of support, all of a sudden, boom, you got a winner. But you have many, many, many that simply don't gain the traction needed to be successful. So entrepreneurs still have to have these qualities to be successful. You can't walk in and go, give me free money. If you give me money, then I'm going to start my business. Well, I don't know. Maybe you guys know where there's a lot of free money, but I don't know where there's a lot of free money. So you've got to have the ability to understand the big picture, because at the end of the day, business owners sit in that big chair and they view it, they have to view it differently than those of us who don't make payroll every single day. It's different for them. Interesting, this is, actually I got this from Holly. This is a gentleman who wrote a book called When the Boomers Bail, a Community Economic Survival Guide. Mark Lotman, I hope I pronounced his name correctly. There's a little quote in here I thought was pertinent to this discussion today. Without enough qualified workers to go around, one community's gain will be another one's loss. Economic development won't be a game that everyone can win anymore. It won't be equitable. It won't be fair. It will turn into a demographic civil war. My fear for us as communities is that we're always chasing the conceptual model of economic development. And we need to refocus that. My encouragement to you is to refocus that to the businesses that already call your communities home. Give them some support, some encouragement. Look at the impediments that they have to deal with every single day. And if you can help them be successful, not strategically, tactically, if you can help them be successful, good things will happen. Because I think, this is my opinion, that this could be the next big economic tsunami to come down the pike. A huge amount of people who are retirement age, many of them need to stay in the marketplace because they simply can't afford to retire right now. They hope to, but they simply can't do it. They want to stay employed. They want to stay in the market. In contrast to that, you have baby boomer age business owners who are just challenged with the concept that uncertainty is the commonality of the day. And you can't keep doing that. Business owners won't stay in the game if they don't know what the rules are. And I don't care if you're big business or a little business, the rules are the same. And the more uncertainty that's out there, the more you're not going to take the next $20 bill out of your wallet and put it at risk. So I contend that this issue is tangible, it's real, it's happening every single day, even here in the Upper Peninsula. It's timely, it's happening now, it's traumatic. If you don't realize it yet, you will soon. And it's transgenerational because it's an impact, it's going to hit us from one generation to another. I contend that entrepreneurs should be looking not necessarily at, and again, let me back up, entrepreneurs who are not risk averse, who are bankable and have leadership skills, probably don't look at starting your own business. There's going to be plenty of businesses for sale. Take one that's already out there and make it better. Because I think that's where the next opportunity is really going to come into play. In closing, simply put, from an economic development perspective, appreciate what you already have, because you may not have it for long. And if you can use that to your advantage, and if you can develop strategies and then tactics around looking at the folks who are already in your backyard, the people that you always look over to look for the next deal, the next big employer coming to town. Don't lose sight of the folks who are right in front of you, because they hire a vast majority of the people in your community. And they keep moving money, and that helps all of us. Thank you for your time.